All right, what's up guys? It's Tom with Ferris Engineering. Today we're going to be installing the rear diffuser for the VB WRX. So come along and let's get it done. All right, so with the addition of the rear diffuser for your VB WRX, we're looking to evacuate all that air from underneath the car, reducing drag and increasing downforce. Let's get into the install. Okay, so here's what you're going to receive in the kit. We're gonna have obviously your main diffuser unit. We have left and right kind of side strakes, where the strakes will be on the end. We've got two Swaybar mounts. We have one here, one over there. We've got two side brackets that'll be bolting to the bumper and the rear diffuser. We've got the rear bracket, which is a three-piece kind of setup with this, I'm gonna call it a banana bracket, and these straight brackets here. And then of course you're going to receive the hardware kit to get all this bolted up to the car. All right, tools we need to get the diffuser installed. You shouldn't need it, but if you do, a drill and a 3/8 drill bit, pry bar to get the exhaust hangers off, 5mm Allen key or socket, 9/16 wrench, 10mm wrench, a large flathead or panel popper tool or clip removal tool. You'll need a ratchet and a 4mm Allen key or socket, and you'll need a 12mm socket and an impact gun if you want to get the Swaybar mounts off that way. Also, you're going to need a level or an angle finder so you can make sure you level the diffuser correctly. All right. So here is the general area we're going to be working with. We're going to have a rear bracket in this section here. We've got two side brackets that'll be bolting to the bumper, and we've got two Swaybar brackets that are going to go up. So as a precursor to everything that we're going to do, I have lowered the exhaust. I just took the hangers off. Got two on each muffler and one kind of in the middle. So if you want, go ahead and drop that. If you want to work around it, that's up to you. Just make sure you support it with a jack or a jack stand like I have here. And that being done, we're going to begin bolting up these Swaybar mounts. All right, so we're gonna start with removing the Swaybar mounts. So, Swaybar mount bolt, I should say. And we're gonna install the bracket just like I have here. The upper tab, this guy, should be facing kind of the front of the car. And we're gonna go on top of the Swaybar mount. Go ahead and repeat that for the other side. Torque the bolt to 13 foot-pounds, and we're on to the next part. All right, moving on to the side of the, that was a lot of rocks. Side of the bumper, we have three clips. They're gonna be these 3/8 push clips. Use a flathead screwdriver, or if you have the right tool, go ahead and remove them. 1, 2, and 3. And that is going to essentially expose this inner kind of bumper support piece and this exhaust cutout garnish over here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is install 3 plastic rivet nuts, assemble your rivet nut tool like this, and you're gonna insert the rivet nut into the hole, hold back the black portion with your 9/16 wrench, and with a 5mm Allen, you're going to continue tightening this bolt. You'll feel some initial resistance, and then it will loosen up, and then you'll feel another bite of resistance again, and that is how you know that the rivet nut has been fully crushed. So if the holes are not already, they should already be the correct size, like I'm demonstrating here. Open them up to 3/8 if, again, they're not the correct size. And what you want to do is kind of pull the liner out like this and install it only into, for the front 2 bolts, into this inner support section. Otherwise, you're going to clamp these 2 pieces together and you won't be able to remove the bumper very easily until you grind out the rivet nuts. So I'm going to go do that, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. Okay, so I have installed the rivet nuts. Let me try to get this out. And hopefully you guys can see on camera basically the backside of this rivet nut. Basically, you're looking for all 4 of those little tanks to be splayed out and crushed against the plastic. So we're going to tuck that back up behind the bumper. Make sure, let me zoom out here. Make sure your bumper garnish thing that you may have popped out goes back correctly. The mounting tabs kind of slot into the bumper. Make sure that they're in there first before you go ahead and kind of tap it into place, because then you'll bend them and then they won't go back very nicely. All right, now we're gonna move on to drilling the hole for the final rivet nut we have to install on the inside. All right, so for the final hole, we're underneath the spare tire well, and we're looking at the driver's side, that inner support thing that we just put the rivet nuts in. We're going to take our side bracket panel. It's the one that has the little doohickey sticking out of it, like that. What you want to do is line this up with the 3 rivet nuts that you just installed and temporarily install bolts into all 3 of those holes. All right, so you want to push this thing up flat against the bumper so that the tang, like you see here, is sitting up against the support that we just put the rivet nuts in. And you're going to want to mark that hole, and then we're going to drill that out and install the rivet nuts in the same exact manner that we just did for the other 3. All right, so we have 2 more rivet nuts we need to install into these 2 holes. Pop out the pop clips that are in there. Use a flathead or your clip removal tool. You're going to want to peel this down. It's kind of hard for me to show, but they do go into a sheet metal tab. Hopefully you can hear that. That is behind this panel. And again, you're going to want to install the rivet nut into the sheet metal, not through the bumper. So you want this to be sitting over the rivet nut. That way you can still remove the bumper. All right, here's a quick shot of what it looks like when you have the rivet nut installed. Again, there's 2, right? You got 1 here, and this is the driver's side, and 1 on the passenger side. So, yeah. All right, so once you get done installing the rivet nuts into these 2 holes, also go ahead and install rivet nuts into these 2 holes right next to it. Full disclosure, you probably remove the clips for these 2 as well, just to get this to move anyways. So that means all 4 of these holes in the center section of the bumper are going to receive the heavy duty M6 rivet nuts. All right, so once you have all the rivet nuts installed, go ahead and grab your curved rear bracket, and we're going to use the 40mm buttonhead cap screws, a 15mm nylon spacer, and 2 18mm washers. You can see I got 1 here and I have another 1 here. Basically, we're using the washers so that we don't crush and deform that kind of like counterboard area in the bumper. So we want the curve to be kind of facing or pointing towards the rear of the car. Now you'll notice everything on the Rear Diffuser Kit, the brackets and diffuser itself, has a bit of adjustment in it. So for this piece, I like to snug these up basically in the center. You don't need to tighten them just yet. We want to make sure everything lines up before we do our final torque for all of the bolts. All right, next we're going to install these little small rectangular brackets in the outer holes that we installed our rivet nut into. We're going to assemble something similar to what we did on the center, but we're going to use the 35mm buttonhead cap screws, 2 18mm washers, and 10mm nylon spacers like you see here. We're going to go ahead and thread these into the rivet nuts. And you do kind of want them pointing towards the rear, and since they are kind of like free floating at this point, we are going to have to adjust them to get them to fit the holes on the diffuser. So just snug them up and let them be able to move around freely. Next step is we're going to go ahead and grab a friend, and we got to put the diffuser up and start a couple of the bolts and make sure all of our brackets are in the right spot. And then we'll go for installing the rest of the bolts and final torque. All right, so we've got the diffuser started. I had with the help of a friend. We've got the 16mm buttonhead cap screws and 18mm washers with the M6 serrated flange nuts, and we started the 4, 2 on each side for the Swaybar bracket, and we started the 3 on basically this bracket for the passenger side. Now we want to get our side strakes, and basically the side strakes want to get sandwiched in between this side bracket and the diffuser assembly. And just like the other parts I did earlier, I'm going to put a 16mm long buttonhead cap screw through the outside of the side bracket and through the side strake into the diffuser, and then we're gonna start the flange nut on the inside. All right, so now we have all of the side and the front bolts started with the 16mm button cap screws. Now we need to figure out basically the angle of the diffuser and what spacers we might need for all of those rear bolts, the 3 rear bolts for those rear brackets we just installed a little while ago. All right, so first thing we need to do is make sure we have enough space to clear your exhaust system. You're going to want this about 5mm away from your exhaust mufflers and pipe, potentially Y pipe in the back. So hold this thing up, get it to where you want it, and then we have supplied an assortment of spacers within the hardware kit. And basically what you want to do is, once you've figured out the height that you can mount this at, we want to level the strakes. So we want the strakes to be parallel with the ground. So what I've done is already adjust the front of the Swaybar brackets, and now I'm just trying to figure out where I want this here, or should I say I already have figured it out. You can use a level across the strakes, or you can use a angle finder like I did. So once you have the correct height, take your selected spacers and go ahead and install them between the brackets, and take your 50mm button head cap screw, 18mm washer, slide them through the diffuser and your spacers, and then you're going to grab a serrated flange nut, just like that. Go ahead and repeat that process. Presumably your exhaust is even, so you're going to have the same spacer arrangement for all 3 of these rear bolts. So go ahead and repeat the process there, and then we'll do final torque. All right, I got the spacers on. You can see that this is kind of set at the correct height. Hopefully you can see that. Maybe you'll see it in the glam shots. Now we're going to go for final torque. All of these M6 bolts are going to get torqued to 6 foot-pounds. And another quick note is you want to make sure that on the outside of the assembly, you always want the button head and the washers on the outside, so you don't have to see the nut and all that stuff. It just looks better, and it's better for airflow. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is tighten these up. All right, we got everything tight. Once you have everything tight and torqued to 6 foot-pounds, can't hurt. Just go ahead and double check what you got here. And we're about 1/2 degree, but this is probably not super level. So I'm going to check it again, make sure it's dead on 0, and we're good to go. All right, guys, that's been the install for the VB WRX rear diffuser. As always, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, be sure to email us at sales@ferris-engineering.com. And until next time, I'll see you later.